I picked up a hitchhiker on an empty highway, and when I glanced at the rearview mirror, he didn't have a reflection. I've driven this stretch of road countless nights. The headlights carve pale lines into the black asphalt, cutting through fields that vanish into shadow. The hum of the diesel engine vibrates through the cab, steady, almost hypnotic. Rain taps softly against the windshield, then harder, each drop like a tiny drum on metal. The mirrors reflect only the endless road behind me. Except for him, I noticed him the moment my headlights caught the shape of a raised arm at the edge of the road. At first, I thought it was just a shadow, a trick of the rain on the asphalt. But as I slowed, the outline became more definite. A person standing there, wet and still, as though they had been waiting for me longer than I had been driving. The night was thick with cloud cover, and there wasn't a single star or moon to guide me. It pressed down, heavy and solid, and in that weightless dark, I felt exposed. I was running an overnight route I'd done hundreds of times. The highway cut through empty farmland, long stretches of trees that leaned inward, shallow ditches that vanished into shadow. Out here, the silence is total. You hear your own tires hiss, your own heartbeat, the low, steady hum of the diesel engine, and nothing else. At night, the road doesn't just feel empty. It feels alive, waiting. The rain whispered against the windshield. The wipers ticked back and forth in a rhythm that I usually found comforting, like a pulse I could count on. I slowed down automatically, almost without thinking. The man didn't wave. He didn't step toward the road. He just stood there, shoulders hunched, hood shadowing his face. I told myself I wouldn't stop. I stopped anyway. The passenger door opened slowly, deliberately, like it was resisting the air. He climbed in and shut it behind him with careful hands. Cold came with him, not a draft from outside, but a presence, sharp and immediate, as though the cab itself had grown smaller around me. "Thanks," he said quietly. I nodded, trying to keep my voice steady. "Where you headed?" He paused. Not a hesitation born of shyness, but something slower, something deliberate. "Straight is fine," he said. That answer sat wrong in my chest. Not alarming, not yet, but unfinished. I drove on, my tires slicing through wet asphalt. The radio crackled intermittently, voices drifting in and out of static. I turned it off. Silence felt safer than voices that didn't belong. He sat very still, hands folded neatly in his lap. His face caught in the green glow of the dashboard light looked off. Not pale, faded, like someone had forgotten to finish painting him. I shivered. My breath fogged the cab. I turned the heat up, but the chill clung to the passenger seat. "You okay?" I asked. "You look cold." "No," he said. "It's always like this." The rain grew heavier, hammering the roof in a steady rhythm. The road curved, then straightened, then curved again. Each bend looked familiar, and yet subtly wrong, like a memory you can't quite trust. Minutes stretched, my shoulders tensed, my hands gripped the wheel so tightly that my knuckles hurt. Every now and then, I caught myself listening, not for sounds, but for changes in the silence. When the old gas station exit came into view, a flicker of relief washed through me. Lights meant people. People meant grounding. "I can let you off here," I said, easing toward the turn. He didn't move. I glanced over. The seat was empty. I froze. My heart pounded in my chest, loud and insistent. The space beside me pressed down, cold and insistent. The seatbelt hung loose, swaying slightly, as though it had just been released. My throat tightened. I told myself I'd imagined it. Fatigue, a mind filling gaps. I merged back onto the highway. A mile later, The door lock clicked. My chest seized. My breath caught. Before I could react, the passenger door slowly swung open while I was still moving. Rain blew inside, soaking the seat, the floor, and then a voice, soft, calm, deliberate, spoke from behind me. "Not here," it said, close enough that I felt it at my ear. "Soon." I didn't turn. Couldn't. My hands shook, gripping the wheel. My mirrors showed only the empty road behind. Nothing else. The longer I drove, the more the night warped around me. Mile markers skipped numbers. Road signs named towns I knew had been abandoned decades ago. Time felt wrong. My heartbeat thudded in my ears, my breathing short and loud. When the first gray hint of dawn finally seeped into the clouds, the cold vanished. The pressure lifted. The passenger seat was empty again. Dry. I didn't stop until I reached traffic. Even now, years later, when I drive that stretch at night, I sometimes hear the door lock click, and I never slow down anymore. I first noticed the light because it was keeping pace with me. At first, I thought it was a reflection, a distant farm lantern, maybe a car in the opposite lane. But as I drove, it stayed perfectly alongside the trailer, hovering just beyond the reach of my headlights. No blinking, no drifting, just a steady, white glow. And no matter how I changed speed, it stayed there, matching me, watching me. The highway stretched flat and endless through scrubland. Open desert on either side, no trees, no fences. Just the dark, smooth asphalt cutting through a world that seemed abandoned. The sky above was impossibly clear. Stars so sharp it almost hurt to look at them. Pinpricks of light that made the blackness beneath them feel even heavier. The night wasn't empty. It was alive, waiting. I was tired. Hours behind the wheel. The kind of fatigue that makes your brain slip into edges of dreaming while your body insists on motion. The diesel engine thrummed beneath me, tires hissing over wet asphalt, wind whistling past the mirrors. My cab smelled faintly of coffee, sweat, and rubber. Familiar. Grounding. The hum of the engine usually kept me calm. Tonight, it felt like the only thing keeping me tethered to reality. I tried to shake it off, told myself it was fatigue, reflection, hallucination. But when I slowed, the light slowed. When I sped up, it sped up. Then a second light appeared. It dropped down from the sky with smooth, unnatural precision. No sound, no wings, no engines, just pure motion, stopping at the exact same height as the first. My stomach clenched. Aircraft don't move like that. Nothing I knew could. I slowed again. The two lights slowed with me. The air in the cab grew heavier, electric. I could feel it pressing against my skin, crawling up my spine. My hands tightened on the wheel. My heartbeat thumped so loud it rattled in my ears. I reached for the radio. No signal, not even a single bar. The screen flickered and died. Then a third light appeared, directly above me, larger, dim around the edges, hovering, matching my speed perfectly. The cab shivered under it, though I could feel no wind, no vibration from the road. Just a low, insistent pressure, like the world itself was watching. I gasped, teeth buzzing. The steering wheel trembled. I pressed harder on the accelerator. The truck responded sluggishly, as if considering whether to obey. Then, awareness. Not a presence I could point to, but a knowledge that I was no longer alone in my own mind. Flashes came, images unbidden. My truck from above shrunk to a moving dot, my own face pale and wide-eyed, seen from impossible angles. Shapes moved in the light overhead, tall, thin, indistinct, not human, not animal. Limbs bending in ways my body could not. They shifted slowly, studying me, precise and deliberate. My stomach turned. My breath caught in my throat. The truck drifted slightly, as if pushed by something unseen. I yanked the wheel. Tires screamed. The engine sputtered, dying for a heartbeat. Silence fell, heavier than anything I'd known. No wind, no tires, no engine, just lights, and my own ragged breathing. And then I felt it, a gentle upward pull. Not enough to lift me, but enough to unseat me from my own sense of self. Loose objects slid slightly toward the ceiling. My chest tightened. My mind screamed in ways words cannot hold. I thought of my name. It slipped away. I thought of my route. Gone. The cab felt thinner. My body felt lighter. My identity fraying at the edges, dissolving into the night. Then, abruptly, it ended. The pull vanished. The lights shot straight up, disappearing among the stars with impossible speed. Engine roared back to life. Truck lurched, tires gripping asphalt again. My hands shook. My breath tore in and out. I drove until dawn. At the rest area, I parked and didn't move for a long time. Sunlight crept slowly across cracked pavement. Birds called in the distance. No lights, no shapes, no radio. I checked the clock. Nearly 3 hours missing. My GPS logs didn't match the distance traveled. My phone held blurry images I didn't remember taking. Dashboard, windshield, night sky. One image froze me. A reflection in the glass. My face pressed close to the windshield. And behind me, faint, elongated, watching. I still drive nights, but whenever the stars feel too sharp, too focused, I keep both hands on the wheel, and I never look up. The first time I saw the toll booth, I didn't notice it at first. The road stretched straight and endless through flat, empty land. My headlights carved 2 pale stripes across black asphalt. Beyond that, everything else disappeared into shadow, save for the faint shimmer of reflective posts that blinked past like distant, tired eyes. The engine hummed beneath me, low and constant, a familiar vibration I could feel in my seat, through my hands on the wheel, even in my chest. Usually, that sound comforted me. That night, it felt fragile, a thread barely holding me to the world I thought I knew. I'd driven this highway hundreds of times, yet I couldn't place this structure at the roadside. It was squat and concrete, with a single dim light glowing above a small window. There were no warning signs, no ramps, no markings that this road had ever been tolled. Yet there it stood, solid and undeniable, like a fixture in some memory I didn't have. I slowed. My tires hissed, and the truck groaned in response. Rain had started to fall, light at first, then heavier, hammering the roof and splattering on the windshield. I reached for the wipers. The booth remained, looming, unshakable. A man sat inside, faded uniform, thin face, dark eyes deep and still. He looked directly at me, and in a way that made my stomach tighten, he looked relieved to see me. He didn't reach for money. He didn't ask for a ticket. Instead, he produced a small, worn metal stamp. No receipt, no paper, just a stamp that glinted faintly in the dim light. "This won't take long," he said. "Never does the first time." Before I could ask what he meant, the stamp pressed against the dashboard. I felt a slight pressure, not pain, just a strange sensation, like a finger pressing on my thoughts rather than the cab. And then, suddenly, the booth was gone. I drove on, telling myself it was fatigue, an illusion born of long hours and too few rest stops. The road returned to familiar emptiness, the engine's hum now a small reassurance. But the feeling of wrongness lingered. The cab felt hollow. The air smelled sterile. The radio was silent, static only. My reflection in the windshield looked off somehow. An hour later, I noticed it. A gap in my memory. A sense of absence. A void I couldn't name. Something had been taken, and I didn't yet know what. Then the toll booth reappeared, exactly as before. The man, the uniform, the stamp. He looked at me and passed me at the cab, at the sleeper, at all the small belongings I had stacked in careful piles. "You came back quick," he said. "That usually means we didn't take enough." I tried to speak. "I didn't agree to this. I don't know what—" He interrupted, calm, almost gentle. "If you take something back, something else has to stay." My hands shook. My breath caught. My mind reeled against the idea. "What have you taken?" I asked, voice hoarse. He didn't answer immediately. He lifted the stamp. The moment it pressed down again, I felt something inside me shift. A brief, sharp emptiness, like air leaving the lungs, like a weight had been lifted and replaced with nothing. I gasped, choking back a rising panic. Something important was gone. I didn't know what, only that a hollow space had opened where it used to be. I drove on. The world seemed slightly altered. The road had curves that shouldn't exist. Mile markers skipped numbers. Signs pointed to towns that were abandoned, roads that had been closed for years. I told myself it was fatigue, a dream. My hands gripped the wheel until they hurt. My heartbeat sounded in my ears, too loud, too fast. The booth appeared again, far ahead, smaller this time, stretching impossibly into darkness. Shelves lined the back, filled with indistinct shapes, fleeting impressions, flickers. Not objects exactly, but echoes. People, perhaps. Lives paused mid-motion, and I realized with a chill that each shelf was a driver, a human life reduced to some fragment of existence, captured, waiting. "You're traveling alone?" he asked, studying me. "Yes," I said. "That's fine. It's lighter then." Lighter. The word landed on my chest like a stone. I realized then that whatever this place took, it was precise, not cruel, not random, efficient, functional. He lifted the stamp once more. The moment it pressed, I felt it differently. A rush of something vital left me. Memories, maybe, or certainty, or identity itself. I couldn't name it. My reflection blurred, my thoughts scattered. My grip on the steering wheel was all that tethered me to the cab. When I drove off again, tears blurred my vision. Not pain exactly, but grief for something I couldn't recall losing. The road stretched endlessly. Dawn never came. The air remained cold, sterile. Even the engine's hum seemed muted, subdued, hesitant. By the time I saw the booth for the fourth time, I was exhausted in a way sleep could not fix. My hands shook, my chest burned, every sense straining. "I don't want to drive anymore," I whispered, voice cracking. He nodded. "Most say that eventually." I looked past him at the shelves again, and understanding washed over me like ice. Each shelf, a driver, each imprint, a life consumed by motion, by roads that never end, by hours that never stop. The booth faded as I drove on. Daylight eventually returned, though it felt muted, gray, unnatural. I was alone, and yet part of me remained behind, stamped into the concrete, etched into the shelves, a ghost of the driver I used to be. I still drive nights, and sometimes, when the road feels too wide, too expectant, I slow down, because a part of me is still at that booth, still paying what I cannot reclaim.